Hey, I'm Anthony Romano, and this video is going to tell you very quickly about some of the muscle-sparing properties of ketogenic diets and fasting in general. So overall, this is partly a little teaser of my new program, the Keto Shred program, which is literally the best collection of fat loss strategies aimed at using keto, and also sprinkling in some fasting and some other techniques as well. But this is a decade's worth of keto experience specifically for the fat loss stuff. Okay, I've worked with a lot of people for a variety of different reasons, okay, brain injuries, issues like diabetes and whatnot, but that's the fat loss one. So we're going to break into a small little, teaser preview of one of the topics I speak about in that program that specifically relates to sparing muscle and not wasting it, and why you actually have less of a risk of burning your own muscle for fuel when you're on keto compared to other diets. Okay, so that's a very big revelation here, and I'm going to try to make this video quick. But before we get into it, the sale on the Keto Shred program is still on. I've extended the launch sale, which, by the way, thank you to everybody who's gotten the program. I truly hope it's been, delivering as well as you've been telling me that it is. And for everybody who hasn't gotten it, I've extended the sale until January 10th because I realized this is a New Year's thing at the same time I launched it. So you know what? I'm extending it. Lowest rock bottom price it's ever going to be. So I want the OGs of this page, the pioneers, to get this program at the lowest possible price I will ever put it out at. And down the line, you're going to get all the updates, all the audiobook companions, all those things if you get it now as well. So check that out on my website, romanoketo.com. Let's get into this video. So, in the Keto Shred program, okay, digital book on my website, I have a small section on how you might actually be able to build some muscle while you're using the Keto Shred program. Funny enough. So, how does that work? Well, essentially, of course, somebody would have to be training, adequately and frequently and with the right intensity and getting enough protein. That's kind of the short little teaser that I'll actually give you that, is basically the foundational stuff you could research and figure out on your own. But if you want to go right to the promised land, get the Keto Shred program. But the little chapters I speak about building muscle while you're fat loss cutting is something which is unique to keto because, remember, in nature, okay, during the wintertime, sugar and carbohydrates do not grow. And our ancestors would have been doing a lot of fasting. So here's the thing. We would not have had low-calorie diets in nature. Granted, we would have probably ate low calories on a lot of days, but the thing is, the approach to weight loss or the approach to handling scarcity of resources was not simply eating less food. It was simply that there was so much less that you had to fast a lot and you couldn't eat any of the sugary types of foods. Fruits and mangoes don't last longer than 2 weeks, and even if you're in the part of the world they grow, and if you aren't, then you can't ship them over because back then there was no global trade. Okay? Now, granted, that doesn't mean that other areas wouldn't have a little bit more sugar available, but either way, the point remains. Our ancestors would have been cutting out, whenever they were in a scarcity, they would be accessing ketosis. Why? Ketosis is protective. It's the body's homeostatic mechanism for, signaling, hey, let's dive into fat stores here and not use up muscle tissue. Because your body's not stupid. Your body wants to use fat, the very thing that it stores for the specific purpose of stored fuel, when you're in the ketogenic state. Okay, when there's a scarcity of food, your body wants to use stored fat. It doesn't want to use, valuable resources like protein. So what signals this? Well, we know that a lot of functions in the body which glucose would have been, used as the fuel for, get replaced by ketones. Okay, and also fatty acids in the blood. Fatty acid, free fatty acids. Not saying that your bloodstream is going to be chock full of fat, because that's not going to happen. But when we're talking about the brain, most of the ketones are actually meant to go to the brain, and a lot of them are going to be in circulation, right? So what benefit does that provide for muscle tissue? Because right now I've just said, a lot of the things you're going to use carbs for, ketones are used for. Well, here's the thing. Ketones are structurally similar to certain amino acids. In particular, leucine. So leucine is probably the biggest instigator of muscle growth. And it's in the BCAAs. It's the whole reason we take those as a supplement in the bodybuilding industry, fitness industry. But here's the thing. If ketones are structurally similar to leucine, then rather than using leucine for certain processes, your body's going to use ketones. They're almost synonymous, and the body recognizes this. It's basically saying, I can fit this square peg into a rectangular slot, right? Basically, if they're chemically, structurally similar enough, then why would the body waste leucine when the whole reason it's diving into fat stores and getting that signal that, hey, we are fully entering ketosis here, we should just use the fats, okay? And your body would much rather waste a lot of extra fat as fuel than it would for protein, because protein's a valuable resource. This is also why people who are new to keto often find that if they measure their ketones, which you don't have to do, they're going to register very high ketones because their body's just making more than it needs and it's excreting them. And that's also why some people who are new might get bad breath or something. That's from the acetone, which is and acetoacetate, which are ketone bodies being excreted through your saliva because your body's making too much. And on top of that, the bad breath thing isn't going to last, especially because it's also your body detoxifying itself of toxins which are stored in your fat. But at the same time, we have evidence that the body would much rather make more fuel out of your body fat and waste that, which is a good thing for you because it means you're going to be getting, leaner quicker, than it would ever want to, do the same for muscle tissue. So as far as it's a double whammy effect is what I'm saying. It's not only are you, perhaps wasting more body fat as fuel, making more fuel out of your body fat, but because you're doing that, it indicates that you're doing it solely to protect muscle tissue. And of course, we know how the mechanisms work, as I've just explained, partially with the leucine comparison there. But there are a couple studies I've referenced in here in the Keto Shred program. Great work from Volek and Finney. Also, on that note as well, great book from these guys, Low Carbohydrate Performance. But Volek and Finney have a lot of great studies out there. I mean, amongst so many other people that I wish I could name, but there's too many that I'd like to give credit to for actually conducting this research. But the point is, Keto Shred program has a section on building muscle tissue while you're burning fat. And here's the last critical takeaway I want you to have before you leave this video and start watching more of my other videos and then after buying the Keto Shred program. The thing is, what you also need to know is that preventing ketosis when you are in a low-calorie diet or some sort of energy scarcity is actually going to be worse for your muscle tissue. Because if you are basically getting your body to a low energy intake and then basically preventing it from fully tapping into fat stores, aka ketosis, then you're basically keeping your body on a low-carb state, but not low enough carbs to get to keto territory, okay? So it's still on a carb engine, just on very few carbs. And if it's running on carbs, it's going to want to make more carbs. And it's quite easy for your body to make into glucose, okay? It can still do that with fat as well. And, I'm not saying it's super easy because it is metabolically expensive. But the point is, your body, when on a carb metabolism and on low carbs, is going to say, shit, we're out low on carbs. Let's make some carbs. It's easier to make carbs out of protein than it is out of fat. So that is one side of the coin here about how, you risk more muscle loss on a carbohydrate yet severely calorie deficient diet. But the thing is, the prevention of ketosis when in a low calorie environment can risk more muscle loss. And we've seen this because the actual amount of nitrogen that keto diets spare can allow people to eat even up to 50 grams a day without any nitrogen losses. And this is massive. If everything I just said there went over your head, nitrogen is how they measure protein in excretions in the body, because you can't really measure protein, but you can measure a waste product that breaks off of it. And when you're measuring nitrogen, the only thing that basically tells you if you're gaining muscle or losing it is how much of a balance you have. So if you're getting rid of more than you're consuming, then you're losing muscle tissue. If you're making more, if you're basically using more than you're consuming, then you have a positive nitrogen balance. And this is the only thing that's required for muscle building, regardless of calorie amount for the day. So when we're applying this back to the muscle loss thing, if somebody's on a ketogenic diet, we've seen that even though the first few weeks take a certain higher amount to prevent muscle breakdown, so the first 3 weeks or so, you're going to need, closer to 130 at least grams of protein. This is what's been shown in studies to prevent any sort of muscle loss, which 130 is not a lot for most people, and after 3 weeks, people only need 50 grams of protein a day to prevent nitrogen losses. This is ridiculous because this means you could basically eat one serving of protein and you're not going to break down any of your own muscle tissue, which again lines up with the evolutionary context here, given the fact that during the harsh winter, How the hell would our ancestors survive if they were just churning through all of their protein? They wouldn't. Even if, they were really good hunters and got a lot of protein around, they would probably be fasting a lot. And it's this very state, the ketogenic state, which prevents the extra breakdown of protein. And, that can basically play into a better nitrogen balance. And if you are cutting aggressively for fat loss, yet still getting enough protein, training properly, and, having lower protein requirements, it's going to be easier to build muscle. Now, granted, there are other implications here for how the thyroid hormones get affected by this, but that's a far more dense conversation, and perhaps I'll talk about that in other books I'm writing. But the point is, keto protects your muscle, okay? It allows ketones to sub in for roles which carbohydrate and also certain amino acids would be used for. The prevention of ketosis actually makes you more likely to burn up your own protein as fuel, and at the same time, it makes your body less likely to tap into its own fat stores further because your body wants to remain in that carbohydrate metabolism, okay? Our metabolism is seasonal. And during the summertime when carbs were in abundance, our body would keep that carbohydrate metabolism, but then it would have the check and balance of the wintertime again, where there's lots of fasting and no sugar available. So, think about that. Watch my other videos and go buy the Keto Shred program while it's at this rock bottom low price, $37.94. I'm telling you, it's going to rock your world, and if it doesn't, just send me an email and I'll happily refund you. It's not a problem at all, but I'm very confident you're going to enjoy it and get a load of value out of it. So, leave me some questions here. I'll do my best to get back to you. Like this video, and as always, I appreciate all of your support on, of course, the program and the videos, but even in the comments and things of that nature. So, thank you. Follow me on Instagram as well. Subscribe and like. Peace.